While learning photography, you will likely come across the advice that harsh midday light is suboptimal and it should be avoided in favour of golden hour. But for most of us, we don't always get to pick and choose the perfect conditions. We have to work with what's actually in front of us at any given time. Perhaps midday is the only time you can shoot, or your window of photography time each week is so small you just go out and shoot no matter what time of day it is. For me, I've never been the type of person to wait for the perfect conditions or only shoot in golden hour. Instead, I've spent a lot of time figuring out and learning what works when. So in today's video, I've got a few approaches and tips that I personally use for midday harsh light to hopefully help you come away with great photos from the middle of the day. Quick disclaimer, there's no right or wrong way to do this, and what I'm talking about in this video are not rigid rules that you have to stand by. They're just stuff that work for me and have helped me find my rhythm when the light gets hard to work with. Let me know if you've got any in the comments down below. Let's start with wide open areas where there's little coverage to block harsh light, as I often find these types of locations hardest to work with. However, there are a few standout approaches I navigate towards. Firstly, the shooting direction. In harsh midday light, when I'm in a wide open area, I'll almost always shoot with the sun behind me. And if there is a subject or scene I really want to take a photo of and it does happen to be facing the sun, I'll almost always crop the sun out of the frame just to the top left or top right. That's not to say backlighting subjects and scenes can't work in wide open areas if you're going for a certain look or really want something to be a silhouette. I just find shooting away from the sun to be much more favourable. Shooting something in front of you with the sun behind you reveals all of the textures and lifts the harsh shadows and softens out the contrast that is already extremely strong because of it being a harsh light time of day. This is also where colours will be the strongest, making photos feel clean and vibrant. It can also result in a highly graphic style of photo, which I think always looks great. It does mean your scene will be quite even and flat if there's no clouds, but I still think it looks really nice. As mentioned, if I do happen to take a photo and there's no way of getting the sun behind me, a little cue I like to follow when I'm out taking photos is to try and position the sun to bounce off of my shoulder. So if this is my frame here, I would imagine the sun coming from the side and bouncing off my shoulder, or the same on the other side. This means that any haze or glow creeping in from the corners can actually add to the frame and make the photo feel a bit warmer and lit up by a specific area of light in the photo, rather than just consuming the whole top side of the image and looking a bit messy and ugly. Another thing I love to do, especially on bright blue sky days when clouds have vanished, is to utilize that bright blue sky as negative space. A clear, colorful sky obviously acts as a block plane of color, so it almost moves away from the fact that it's actually a sky and instead starts to work as a backdrop for your subjects. I find it really helps places to feel open and airy. It can also make subjects, buildings, people, etc. feel small amongst a landscape, which can look great in a photograph. You can also double down on this by shifting your horizon down. Putting your subjects at the bottom of the frame creates a sense of isolation that, in my opinion, isn't quite as powerful when the sky is covered in clouds. When the sky is clear and cloudless and bright blue, I also find it makes it a lot easier to bring harmonizing colors into your photograph. So oftentimes on a bright blue sky day, I'll actually go out in seek of harmonizing colors and allow that to kind of guide my photography on that day and give me a point to follow when I'm out taking photos, so I'm not just aimlessly wandering and frantically trying to make something work under that harsh blue sky. So of course, oranges and yellows are very complementary with blue, so I'll often look out for those tones in images under bright, harsh blue skies. All of this can absolutely work with colorless skies too. I personally like to expose colorless skies just slightly darker than pure white. So again, they allow the image to feel spacious, bright and minimal rather than muddy and bleak. After all, it's bright and harsh outside and you are way better leaning into the brightness than trying to go the other way and make places feel moodier or darker when they're just not in reality. So what about when clouds are present and coming and going fast, or perhaps moving very slowly, meaning that big harsh shadows are being cast on our subjects like buildings, people and cars, etc. When this happens, I like to shoot most of my subjects from an angle angle rather than straight on and try to aim into the shadows first. This creates a sense of 3D depth on our subject that often disappears when it's harsh midday light and there's no clouds present whatsoever. Having a shadow side to a building or a person or even a landscape separates the subject from itself, so you've no longer just got this big block of highlight that's overpowering, and instead makes the moment feel like it has more actual weight and layers to it. I also think it's very important to not just look at your subject and also look at how shadow and light is being cast and moving around on the foreground of your image. If there's a back and forth pattern across the foreground that can be arranged nicely, this also helps places come alive a lot more than when they're just all highlights. I've been using this technique a lot lately, especially when faced with just grass or wider open spaces in the foreground, as it turns something that's quite boring into a more thoughtful photo. So a lot of those points can definitely still work when we move into small towns and bigger cities and start taking photographs in those environments. But for me, there's one major shift. In these places, the harsh light is often being broken up for you by walls, architecture, narrow streets, etc. And it's your job then to go and seek it out. And I think harsh light actually becomes a very easy tool to use for simplification when we're talking small towns and bigger cities. We can of course use huge over-the-top shadows to hide ugly parts of our frame or create mystery within a photograph. And the opposite thing goes for lights shining through buildings. We can use that to illuminate certain textures, subjects, people, whatever it may be that we want to be the star of the show in the photograph. For me personally, this creates a sense of something more interesting happening than just having a completely flat lit up scene where everything is even and exposed in places like a town or a city. Do not be afraid to let shadows fall into complete blacks. In fact, I'd encourage this to add mystery to images and make them feel powerful. I know this will of course come down to personal preference, but again, this can give you a real direction and sort of goal when you go out to take photos in these harsh conditions, and you can say to yourself, I'm just going to look for light and shadow and then see if I can create photos based around that. So there are two major changes I make to my shooting style and direction when I go out to towns or villages and the light is really harsh. The first one is to focus in a lot more than I normally would and make the photos feel compact and intimate, so it becomes a lot more about what we can cut out of the photo than actually include. Normally when I'm out in landscapes and big areas, I'm looking to include a lot of that landscape and surrounding land in order to show where subjects sit. But when I'm in the city or small towns, I'm looking to get in nice and intimate and create these photos that don't have too much of the surrounding area or distractions. This approach works extremely well when you don't have those big shadows present, or there isn't any beams of light cutting through the middle of buildings and illuminating certain parts of places. And the second thing I do is to become hyper fixated on color when I'm walking around, because we don't have that beautiful golden light making everything and anything look quite lovely. Even the blandest of boring brickwork, when golden light is hitting it, can look really quite nice, but we don't have that under harsh midday light. So instead we can actively seek out bold colors to really give a photo a focus point when we can't lean into that pleasing light to carry the image. Treat midday light as kind of like the truth light and use it to show moments in the world exactly as they are without the makeup of a sunset. And bold colors can really help give you that pop you need that isn't present when it's not golden hour. Whether you're in a big, bright, open area like the coast, or whether you're in a more compact and busy area like the city, I think almost always leaning into minimalism is absolutely key. Personally, when the light is really harsh and I try to include way too much in the photograph, that harsh light just adds to the busyness and the whole frame becomes a bit of a mess. So once the files are off the memory card, there's a few little bits and bobs I do time and time again in post-production to harsh midday light photos that I thought I'd share in this video too. Firstly, on bright blue days with no clouds present, the midday sun can often make skies look unnaturally electric and saturated. So I almost always drop the saturation of the blues specifically, and this can give the image a more grounded and softer feeling. In my opinion, that's more visually pleasing than an over-the-top blue. And if you don't want to alter the blues elsewhere in your image, you can of course just select the sky on its own and drop the saturation to the sky itself. To be honest, I do the same thing when clouds are present, and when clouds are present, I often soften them out a bit, especially because there's that one type of midday cloudy sky that can look really harsh and overly crisp, almost like a Windows 95 desktop wallpaper. In this case, I'll drop the clarity and texture of the sky in order to make them blend into the photo just that little bit more and be way less obtrusive on the scene. Modern sensors capture a lot of dynamic range, so I'll also often drop the contrast when it comes to harsh midday light. You can also specifically target the brightest pixels or the brightest colors in an image, and doing the same thing, dropping the clarity or texture while keeping the rest of the image nice and sharp, also takes the bite out of the harshest areas that the sun is affecting. So a little tidbit here is that I personally don't think I change what I look for all that much depending on what's happening with the light. However, there are places out there in the world that we want to photograph that by design, just the look of them, may be a lot darker, drabber, and a bit more depressing. We're talking like industrial areas, castles, ruins and stuff like that. They're normally stripped back of colour and quite dull and drab anyway, so actually picking to choose to go to them in harsh midday light when they are being illuminated can actually result in really great photos and bring them to life a little bit more. So if you think about places that often look dead all the time and choose to go there in harsh midday light, that can actually work really well. So to conclude this video, the absolute two main things that I try to remember and focus on every time I do go out in harsh midday light is to work with the light and not against it, and try to make photos feel as simple and minimal as possible. Again, I feel the more you try and include and cram in to a harsh midday light photo, the uglier it's probably going to get. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any tips for harsh midday light so everyone else can read and learn. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.